think the biggest problem that confronts any business is change. And a lot of people see change as a threat rather than an opportunity.
What makes Patagonia different to many other companies is their mission statement. They publicly state that they want to use business to inspire and implement environmental solutions.
We give 1% of annual sales to the environment.
The outdoor clothing company's latest wetsuits are mostly made of a new plant-based rubber from a company called UX.
The world's first neoprene-free wetsuits.
The owner of one company is asking us to help the environment by buying less, including less of everything he sells.
A few years ago, we started a venture fund to fund companies that had an environmental mission.
We make skateboards from recycled fishing nets.
So now, Chouinard is taking another step, asking people to repair their faded, frayed, and fragile clothing.
파타고니아 원웨어 프로그램은 나눠 입기를 통해
We've been able to demonstrate how, as a business, we can be committed to environmental protection, and as a business, financially, we can be very, very successful.
Most people don't like change. And if you're going to have a company that intends to be here for a long time, you have to constantly reinvent the company. Of course, like every other teenage kid, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I think when I was 16 years old, I took off and drove across the country to Wyoming. Went into the Wind River Range and discovered mountains. I never wanted to be a businessman. All I wanted to do was do my craft and climb mountains. I had to figure out a way to where I was going to be a businessman, but I was going to do it completely on my own terms. When I was climbing, I'd look at all the climbing equipment and I thought, you know, this is pretty crude. I could make a better version of it. I get all my good ideas outside. Every time you go out, you come back with a new idea on how to improve the gear or a different technique of doing something. When I was making all the climbing gear, it was a labor of love. I wasn't making hardly any money at it. But I was climbing one year in the winter in Scotland, and coming back to Edinburgh, I saw a rugby shirt in a sports shop, and I thought, this would make a great shirt for climbing. It was real rugged, had rubber buttons, everything was reinforced so it wouldn't rip. I started wearing this climbing, and everybody came up to me and said, wow, that's a great looking shirt. And I thought, wow, everybody's pretty excited about this. Maybe I ought to import a few, see if I can sell some. And I did, and they sold like crazy, of course. And that led to, you know, making a few more pieces of clothing for climbing, all with the idea of starting with the principles of industrial design rather than fashion design. You know, fashion design, you start with a mannequin, you wrap some cloth around it, you pin it here and there, you come up with this creation. Industrial design, you come up with a functional need that you have to solve. And so that's the way we've always approached making clothing. So that's been the secret of our success, really, I think. I was running the company just like a normal company, without thinking about the environmental ramifications of what we were doing. And one time we opened a store in Boston, and within 3 days the employees were complaining that they were getting headaches. So I closed the place down, brought in a chemical engineer, and he said, oh, you're poisoning your employees. I said, what? He said, yeah, they've got formaldehyde poisoning. Because your ventilation system is recycling the same air. It's not working properly. So any other company would have said, fix the ventilation system. Don't tell me about where the poison's coming from. So I said, well, what's the poison? He said, well, it's formaldehyde, which is put on all cotton clothes to make it stay pressed, to minimize the shrinkage and wrinkling. I said, well, geez, I don't want to make clothing with this poison on them. That's when I started thinking about, maybe we better think about what we're doing here. We're just blindly going on making clothing without knowing what we're doing. So what other chemicals and stuff are used to make clothing that's really toxic? That's when we started asking questions. Over the years, we've asked enough questions so that we've pretty much cleaned up our whole supply chain. It's more expensive to do that, but as it turns out, our customers really appreciate that. They appreciate the fact that we're doing all the work for them and sorting out what is the least harmful way to dress. So it's another reason for our success. My livelihood is based on people going into the outdoors. I feel like I have more responsibility than the average person in protecting those outdoors. And so we take 1% of our sales. This means that even if we have a non-profitable year, we still have to give the money away. I don't look at it as philanthropy. It's a cost of doing business, period. It's a cost of using up non-renewable resources. It's a cost for living on this planet. I'm not in business to grow a larger business. I'm not in business to get richer or to be a big shot or anything. I'm very pessimistic about the fate of the planet, and I use business to try to influence other companies into being more responsible. When we switched over to organically grown cotton, that was 20% of our business at risk because no one else was doing organic cotton. People had tried it, dabbled in it a little bit, and failed. And so it was up to us to absolutely prove that it was the right way to go. In my own life, I'm trying to simplify my life as much as I can. I think it was Thoreau maybe said that the more you know, the less you need. And I've learned doing these sports that as you become more proficient at them, you use less and less stuff.
Behind me are 55 people extending the life of our product for our customers.
Doug Freeman is Patagonia's Chief Operating Officer.
We want our customers to invest in great product, and when it's worn out, we want to repair it for them.
It doesn't sound economical for the company.
I can understand why you'd say that, but the way we view it is that we want to reduce consumption.
That's what makes Patagonia so odd, a supposedly anti-consumption corporation. Since its founding in 1973, it's always had a so-called ironclad guarantee, including free repairs, but recently the company ramped up its promotion of that pledge with a cross-country worn-wear bus tour, biodiesel-fueled of course, tailors reviving garments at stops along the way. And though it spends little on advertising, Patagonia donates more than twice as much to environmental causes, as in a famous full-page New York Times ad, "Don't buy this jacket."
It seems oxymoronic.
It certainly does. In fact, sales are booming, up 25 to 30% a year since that ad ran. But we wanted to know, is this just a sales gimmick? So we went to the new Patagonia store in New York City's Soho district, which boasts its own repair center, and in keeping with the reduce, reuse, recycle ethos, features wood beams salvaged from the former Domino sugar factory, and marble counters reclaimed from the renovation of the Museum of Modern Art. According to Patagonia, if you buy stuff that lasts and gets revived so it will last even longer, well, in the long run, less stuff will get made and consumed.
We hope our existing customers do indeed buy less, but we hope to attract more customers that are interested in our message to build the best product, to reduce our impact and cause the least amount of environmental harm.
The way you could really reduce the company's footprint is by not selling any product at all.
Sure. But if we can show, the business community that we're successful, we think we're holding ourselves as a great example for how business can be done differently.
That's why my book is called Let My People Go Surfing. Because if the surf comes up here, everybody leaves and goes surfing. So I don't care when people work, as long as the work gets done. And so there's no one standing over people saying do this, do that.
First and foremost, and if you look at the Patagonia mission statement, it's first is build the best product, and second is cause no unnecessary environmental harm. So I think that still, first and foremost, it needs to be the best product. So definitely both are really, really important. But I think that for each of those environmental solutions to a product, we have to make sure that it performs equally or better than the kind of the standard.
It's a family-style, family-run business. And having the kids right at the center of it, it affects the whole tenor of the place and how we go about our work, and I think it humanizes it.
We're always looking to the future, but I think it's incredibly important to look to the past. And we've been doing things a certain way for so many hundreds of generations, and one of those is raising our kids as a community.
People ask how you do it, and I think it is because we have a village. People do help out, and it's okay. You don't have to do it all on your own.
I think that the company basically becomes a partner with you in parenting.
Having children at the workplace creates a kind of richness to the experience of being at work. It lightens the place. It makes people feel closer to their community. This is the kind of world we need to live in, where people's lives are integrated with their work.
I am the Vice President of Environmental Activism.
And I'm the Director of Global Merchandising.
I am the Category Finance Director.
VP of Supply Chain.
And I'm the CEO of Patagonia.
So I used paid family leave a couple times in my life.
The first two were really fun because I had 2 daughters.
With both of those kids, I took paid paternity leave.
It's a huge transition in life when you have a child.
I was able to fully embrace being a new mom
and balance my work-family priorities.
I think a lot of dads who have to go right back to work right away, they just miss out on those kind of precious first moments in life.
So there was another time period in my life when I needed to drop everything and exclusively focus on a family situation.
We had, doctors we had to meet with and surgery that he had to have right away.
Doctor's appointments and second opinions.
I mean, just the emotional toll of that. I mean, that's hard enough. And
if you were to add another layer of stress on that, of knowing that your job was at risk, your income was at risk, your health care.
I really don't know how people do this without those kind of benefits.
Because you don't plan to, find out that someone in your family has a terminal illness, or that you do.
I didn't have to choose between being with my son and having my job.
And when you're faced with your mortality, that's really what you want to do, is you want to embrace life, embrace every moment, and give thanks for it.
And I was able to really do that with him, even to the very end of his life.
The U.S. is behind most developed countries. I mean, that's a fact when it comes to valuing caregiving.
It's unrealistic to think that we are just a worker or just a caregiver, just a mom.
All of our employees are people. They're all human beings with kids and families, and we need to create a supportive environment for people to be their best and to do their best.
I feel like I'm viewed as more than just a tool for the company to make more money.
I feel proud to work for a place where I can bring my whole self to work.
I'm very loyal to the company.
There's no line between my personal life and my professional life. It's all blended together. And you get one shot to walk the earth, and thank goodness that mine is all blended together with such joy.
My Role is the head of shared services, which at Patagonia means that I lead our finance, HR, and legal groups. Patagonia is based in Ventura, California, mainly because there's a great surf break there. It is right now a little less than $1 billion, about 2,500 employees across the world. Patagonia was founded 40 years ago by a French-Canadian climber, Yvon Chouinard. From the beginning, Yvon set out to create an uncompany. So we wanted to create a place where people could make money and do the things they wanted to do and live full lives. We hire people at Patagonia, whether it's at the corporate office or in our retail stores, who are interested in and love the spaces that they live. We look for a passion for caring about the environment. And if we're doing things that force the store manager to be in the back room all the time, or our employees, to only be on the floor behind the cash wrap, then we're doing something that is antithetic to the culture and the purpose and why we're here in the first place. Culture matters, and you know when it matters most, when you stick to it in the great times and the really challenging times. And so when I look at the history of Patagonia, obviously right now are very good times. But the decisions that we make, even in the bad times, because there were bad times with Patagonia. 2008 was kind of not a great time for Patagonia and a lot of companies, but we didn't cut healthcare. We didn't cut on-site childcare. We didn't cut training and development. That's the test of true culture, is when the decisions you make are consistent, whether business is really, really good or really, really challenging. And I think that's why our employees stick with us.
I think most of those companies, and in fact I don't know of any of our big competitors who give 1% of their sales to grassroots environmental organizations. The cumulative amount of our cash giving is, over $70 million over the life of the company.
And if you go out this door right here and you look on the wall, it still says Friends of the Ventura River. That's the original sign that we put there in 1971. It's still there. That's why it's there. It's our memorial to this idea that we can support individuals and we can support we can support nonprofit groups that represent society to empower them to protect their environment. Several years ago, we ran an ad in many magazines, and there were different versions of it, but the one that I remember the most had a picture of some dolphins swimming in the ocean, jumping out of the water, and the headline said, "These are our shareholders." And I think that really represented the philosophy of our business. We're in the business to protect the planet. And those purposes are our shareholders. That's what we meant in that ad.